Hello, hi. How are you guys? Today I'm going to talk about the difficulty level of quantitative finance. Somebody asked me this question: how difficult is quantitative finance, and how competitive it is? Well, the field is very competitive because any career in banking and finance is quite competitive, not just quantitative finance. But quantitative finance is very academic in nature. So it's academically quite difficult. It's a technical area, and I think all the technical areas, whether it is software development or any other engineering field, scientific research, or quantitative finance, all the technical areas are quite difficult. But compared to say software engineering, quantitative finance is more difficult, in my opinion. There are exceptions, but an average quant job is more difficult compared to an average software engineering job. I'll tell you why the reason is okay. Quantitative finance is very multidisciplinary, unlike in software engineering where you just learn a programming language quite well and you can get started with writing softwares. That's not the case in quantitative finance. In quant finance, you really need to study a lot of things. It's very multidisciplinary. There are many areas which are directly or indirectly related to quantitative finance, whether it's mathematics, statistics, econometrics, programming, algorithms, finance, accounting, economics. So you really need to master a lot of things. You have to cover a lot of things in order to even be able to clear the interview, right, to get the first job. That itself is quite difficult. If you are someone from accounting or economics background, you have to study computer science, coding, and some parts of mathematics. And if you are someone from mathematics or engineering background, you'll have to study economics, finance, accounting, and coding as well, if you're from non-CS background. So because it covers a vast area, it's therefore a bit difficult, right? You really need to know a lot of things. But it's not just of the academic areas because of which it is difficult. There are other things also. For example, you need to understand quite a number of things about banking, right? Banking itself is very exhaustive, is very detailed. It covers a lot of things. But if you really want to be a good quant, you need to understand many areas of banking. If you're a software developer, you really do not need to understand the business. Actually, the product manager will tell you what to build. Although it's good to know the business as a software developer, but it is not required. But as a quant, you really need to understand the business very well. And because banking is so vast, and because there are many areas of banking, right? You could be working in credit risk. Within credit risk, you could be working in retail credit risk management, or you could be working in credit risk assessment of commercial clients. Within commercial clients, there are various types of asset classes. So you might have to understand all of them sometimes, right? And then if you work in something else like in market risk, again your market risk assessment, the modeling techniques, regulatory guidelines might vary with respect to the asset classes. If you go to pricing and derivative pricing, into those areas, again things might differ based on the product, the financial product you are working on. So understanding these things is very difficult, and you won't find much about these things on the public domain. You might read some books, but those books would be very theoretical. You can only learn about these only after working, actually, because a lot of things are secret and you do not have to, you cannot find details about banking products and how they are actually used in real world on public domain. That not much is known. There are some good books to get started. But you really need to work hard in order to be able to understand those things actually. And for many quants, the biggest challenge is to understand the business, because as a quant you do not work very closely with the business, but you really need to have good understanding of the business. So that's definitely a challenge. And there is no intermediate sort of a business analyst who will explain things to you. You really have to do that yourself. Unlike in software development, where you have product managers, business analysts who will talk to the business and they will talk to you as a software developer, the requirement. That's not the case in quant finance. Okay. It's a very dynamic field also, right? Because banks and insurance companies, or the financial world as such, is very regulated, and regulation keeps on changing. So every time there is something new, a lot of changes will happen, and you need to then adapt to those changes. So that could be a challenge. Okay, but it goes without saying that any job within banks is a very challenging one. Actually, banking itself is very challenging business, so it's not different. Okay, it's very competitive for a variety of reasons. First thing, any job in a bank is very competitive because the pays are quite good in banks, and jobs are also relatively more secured compared to, let's say, working in tech firms. Hence, it's more competitive. But quantitative jobs are also way more competitive than other banking jobs. There are many reasons behind it, but I'll tell you the main reason. Because a lot of people from academia, those who are PhD in physics, maths, chemistry, biology, engineering, computer science, many of them do not find jobs in academia, or they find jobs but the pays are very, very bad there. So they want to make a career in quantitative finance. And you will find that in most banks there are like many colleagues. You will have many colleagues who are highly qualified, with double masters, with PhD, postdocs, right? So you will be working with a lot of qualified people, highly qualified people, and it could therefore be very competitive sometimes. Right? That's been my experience, by the way. You could have a very different experience though. And in non-regulatory space, right, in private funds, you will have even more competitive atmosphere, simply because first of all the money is great. The second thing is that these companies do not hire a lot of quants. They hire only a few, handful of them. And if you make there, I think it will be very competitive to survive also, because if you don't make money, then they will let you go. Okay. The job as such is also very demanding, because as a quant you need to be skilled in many areas, right? You need to be able to understand mathematical, very quantitative research papers. You need to be able to understand business and finance. You need to be able to write code, and you need to be able to write well also, because when you build a model, you also have to write a documentation of that. And the quality of documentation in quantitative finance is much better compared to that in software engineering, let me tell you. So you also need to have good writing skills in if you work in risk management or in quantitative finance. So someone having skills in these many areas, right? Someone who can write code, who can understand mathematics, can write well, can talk to people from business, manage stakeholders, someone who has that many skills will of course be very well paid, which is the case. But that area itself is quite demanding, because you will be expected to know a lot of things, right? And it's very difficult to be good in so many areas, right? I haven't seen people actually who are good in all the areas. Like the many highly technical people, sometimes they may not be really good at stakeholder management, or there may be some issues with regards to soft skills. And on the other hand, you will find many people who are really good at stakeholder management. They can deliver projects. They can do good work when it comes to talking to regulators or people from front office, but they may not really understand the details about models, algorithms, right? So sometimes you will have a mix of both sort of people in teams, but in many, especially in small banks or private funds, that you will not have the luxury of having a team with people from different skill sets. You really need to know everything. So that could sometimes be very demanding and could be very difficult. Okay, having said that, let me also tell you that if you are really interested and if you have good understanding of mathematics and you love finance and banking, I think it should not be a challenge, right? Another thing is that if you are working in a very difficult area, right, and you have that niche skill, your demand in the job market will also be very high. It's not very easy to fill up a vacancy in quantitative finance. I mean, managers will not hire data scientists from other businesses, other domains, other industries to fill in, quant positions. They will not do that. Hence, you will always be in demand in the job market, and that's what I have seen also in the recent times. That although many people are losing jobs in many other fields, especially in the tech sector, but banks are still hiring, and they're hiring quants, a lot of quants. So the demand for quant is still quite good actually, thanks to regulators. They're putting a lot of pressure on banks to hire quantitative people. All right. If you have further questions, don't hesitate to ask me. You may want to subscribe, and please let me know what questions you have. Please ask me in the comment section, or you can also write me. Thank you, guys.